All right, so I think I know what your problem is on your outskirts level here. The BSP, I mean, I don't see any major flaws in the BSP, but what I do see is just really complicated and a lot of BSP. Um, Surprisingly, a lot. It doesn't seem like it, and it is nice because it's none of it's really rotated. There's only I think a couple instances where it's rotated on grid, but for the most part, your BSP is all on grid, which is a good thing because it's actually easier to work on. However, I still think this is going to be a big project for you, and it would be a big project for me because I work in passes, so I don't just work um, until the problem is fixed. I will decide what needs done, and then I will do it until it is done across the entire level. So it's hard to explain, but let me get going here. So what is going on is you have too much BSP. I went ahead and took some stats from various levels. Here's Kriegstad, which is an insane level with lots of BSP. Probably one of the most crazy levels in regards to BSP. Stavelo also. Uh, Noville, I thought, well, it's still pretty actually heavy. It actually has a huge max depth, um, higher than outskirts actually. But one thing I have noticed that outskirts is significantly higher on across the board is nodes, and of course, uh, yeah, just the nodes. So let's compare it to Kriegstad here. We got twice as much brushes, pretty much. Um, I wouldn't worry about zones unless you're using portals. That's not going to be very high. Um, the polys can be bad, um, but you know, I don't like none of these values. Like just uh, it's all subjective, sort of. But like you want to try to minimize the BSP cuts and how you view BSP cuts is it's in the perspective view or up here, and it's not this button. Surprisingly, it's actually called BSP cuts. It's not that one. That's an error on the editor. It's actually called Zone Portal, and so you'll just click that, and you can see how your BSP is being cut up into little tiny polys or nodes or whatever you want to call them. I just call them little planes or BSP nut cuts or BSP cuts. Um, so what um, what I would do? This is going to sound like a lot of work, and it is, and this is why I'm not going to do it for you. Um, I would go and start turning things that is easy um, into static meshes and reduce the number of complicated BSP. For instance, these things could be turned into static. They're just one brush, and I think they're the same. I think they mirror, so you could just have one static for both of these. And um, the more complicated stuff comes to these little fences, these little walls. I mean, they could be converted to static. There's this definitely this is bad. You don't want to do any sort of detail work with BSP like this. Um, so I don't know if you made this or you grabbed this from somewhere else. I mean, this is fine when the level has like barely any BSP, right? Because it's not overcomplicated and the BSP cuts aren't getting towards a threshold, like a max threshold, which I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know the values. I just know that you want to keep it as uncomplicated as possible. And that means not having crap like this on a level with that much BSP. um, so, big culprits. This church, especially this thing. I know you grabbed this probably from Noville, which is fine. But Noville like is right on the threshold, anyways, for complicated BSP. And so when you take it over the threshold, it just will cause that Hall of Mirror issue. Especially, I've especially learned that the Hall of Mirror issue where you only see the Hall of Mirrors if you binoc or scope, or a better way to test is just to change your FOV from 90, like to say 20 or 35 or whatever. Just change it around, and you'll start to see that Hall of Mirror effect, regardless of binocs, regardless of scopes and or tanks. Um, Another thing is, as you fix the BSP, and it starts to not have Hall of Mirrors, you'll start to see you stop seeing stuff like this. I don't know if you could see it on my stream, but I'm like inside the wall here inspecting it, and I see a bunch of white dots, especially when I move around, and white dots in like a lined form. When I move the camera around, it's really noticeable. You'll stop seeing stuff like that. I thought when I first started seeing these lines and white dots on some levels and Po2. Now this is BSP we're talking. I thought it was an indicator that there's something wrong with this room or the BSP brushes surrounding that room, and so I was really focused on fixing or looking into making sure all that vertices were aligned around there. But that wasn't the case. In fact, as I went elsewhere and started optimizing the BSP elsewhere on the level, I went back because I left a note in the level to like, hey, let's see what this, what's the problem with this, and it was gone. It was just straight up gone. So, and I had not changed anything with that building or anything around that building per se, but yeah, it's just too much BSP cuts. That's what it comes down to. Uh, and so what that means is you need to work in such a way that you're not using BSP to do complicated stuff. So now that you've already made the level, it is now going to be it feel like a lot of work. Now, if you would have worked from the beginning correctly, or I know you took a lot of these buildings, so it's not your fault or anything, but what you need to do now is go back and start optimizing this if you want to save and salvage this level. Another thing you could do is delete a bunch of buildings, which I don't think you'll want to do, because it's supposed to be kind of like a town and a city or whatever. You could replace some of these buildings with static mesh buildings, though personally, all the static mesh buildings that we currently have in Darkest Hour, in any mod of Red Orchestra, just isn't very good. Now, does that mean we can't make them? Actually, I've learned some new things that would make static mesh buildings possible and actually look really good. So what I would do is do a pass where you look at each building one by one and you see how you can simplify it. So this building actually doesn't have a lot of things you can simplify on it. The one thing would be these lips at the bottom could be lowered. Pointless little faces like this, where like it's making a whole new cut right here just for this little lip. I mean, if you're gonna have a lip for the doorway, you might as well like make it look good. But this looks kind of garbage, so I would either just get rid of this and have this subtraction brush aligned with the floor and the wall here, or just not, or just like move it over and make it a sane door. But get rid of the lips, because that's another BSP cut right there, and so is right there. What that requires is going into this mode, selecting the brush, going into one of your side views. I know it's a pain to work with on a level like this that's already made and got a bunch of crap. So that's probably why I would actually section the level into halves or maybe even quarters. And what that means is, um, well, first of all, you got a lot of statics on here too, and that's causing a lot of issues with crashes and stuff like that. So, um, what I would do is go and take out some of your BSP to start with. Like start um, sectioning out it into different. One nice thing is, let's say, let's make sure I only have. I see it says I have actors. Oh, well, I want only BSP. So I'm going to unselect that. It's probably going to crash. Oh, it didn't. No, there it goes. Yeah. So this is the whole. What I'm trying to do here is to get it to where it doesn't crash on you constantly like that. Um, and I know it's a pain to work like this, but it's going to be the best way to do it. Unless you want to start doing other optimization passes before you even work on the BSP. One thing you could do is go ahead and take out, let's say, the trees or all vegetation. Actually, if you have it all grouped, it would be nice. Let's see if you do. Nope, that would be incorrect. You don't have it grouped. Uh, let's see what groups, if any, this has. None. So I would go through. Let's increase this so I don't move them on accident. Select a bunch of trees. You got a lot of trees. I would start with trees, and then bushes, and then any other thing you have a lot of. So now I'm gonna right click, go to select matching static meshes, and now I can see which ones I still need to select. Keep doing this until all of them are selected. Oops, I was selected already. Okay, let's do it again. Select matching static meshes. Are these selected? Yeah. And I'm really bad at telling if things are selected or not because I'm colorblind, red and green, and sometimes I don't know how green something should be, and I would go ahead and do this stuff too. And then what you do, I would do all that, is you cut it out of the level, actually. Believe it or not, you just like, oh, let me get these trees. Or tree group. Yeah. Select matching static meshes. Alright, and then I just cut it out of the level. And then, this is very important, open Notepad and paste it in. And so now it's saved, sort of. Like, you could bring it back. You could bring all these back real easy. First, let me save this. And I'll just save it to my desktop and say, you know, out, skirt, trees. And then, let's say later you're ready to bring them back into the level because you've done a lot of work and you're like, you know, you fixed the hall mirrors and you know you think you're ready to make it complete again. Then all you got to do is bring up the text file, Control A, and then like copy or Control C, and then what you want to do is set your grid to 32, and then just right click anywhere, go to Edit, Paste to Original Location. Now, what that does is it pastes it to the original location plus 32x plus 32y plus 32z. So you got to move them back, and I just hold Control, drag it left one, drag it up one, and then go into side view or front view or whatever you want to call it, and then drag it down one. And there, now it's exactly back where it all was, and it's all there. And now your level's back to where it was. And you could do that for lots of static meshes that you have a lot of that is hurting the compile time, the build time, and just like general like causing these crashes. So uh, what to optimize on the BSP. So once you get your level set up to where it's easy to work on, you can do, by the way, you can do that with the BSP too. I was going to show you that. So instead of so I hit W to get rid of statics, I hit H to get rid of actors, and then I'm just going to band select that BSP block right here, and it should only get BSP brushes. See how it says brush properties, which means it only has brushes selected. So you could do the same thing here. 1982. And the same method applies. You would control. You would cut this out. I would put it in a different notepad. Name it, something. Save it. Make sure you save it. And when you bring it back, you got to be a little more careful with BSP because it will snap to grid in a strange way to where when you move it left, it may move a little bit strangely first. And so what I do, hopefully you have something that's snapped to 32 here, which it doesn't look like anything is, which is concerning. You're close, but I would find something that's snapped to 32 for sure. That right there. I would just go to pivot, snap here, all right, and then I would just then you would move it, hold control and move it left, move it up, or move it up in this top viewport, and then move it down in the front viewport, and that way, like, otherwise when you go to move the BSP, depending on where your pivot point is, it may not move correctly or how you want it. So you just give it a practice. If it's screwed up, just delete it, go back to your notepad, copy it again, or actually it's still in your clipboard, so you could just paste it again. But just trial and error with it. As long as you got it backed up, and also because you work with your levels on a non-Git repo or whatever, I would have like different versions of the level. I'm sure you know all that, but just be careful. What you're doing is really complicated and easy to mess up and easy to lose stuff with. So let's get right to it on viewing the BSP cuts. You click this button. Like I said, get rid of this. Make this static. Make all stairs. Never have BSP stairs. Very bad. Look how many cuts it takes. It's like each little step is a BSP cut. So if you got rid of this, if you get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, there's another 10, there's another 10. Plus, surprisingly, it's not doing it, but plus any sort of BSP touching other BSPs, it can cut into other BSPs. So a great example is this thing over here, and why you should get rid of it is, you see how this little complicated, let me go into this view, this little post or whatever, see how that wall's flat and it shouldn't be cutting at all, but it is, and because it's got touching BSP, that's complicating it. Right here, you can see that this fence is affecting this BSP wall and cutting it more than it needs to be cut by far. And that's just one example. Let's go over here. This does not need to be BSP. This little chimney, you could convert that to static. In fact, a lot of your roofs you can convert to static. Like this roof, for instance. Let's go into this view mode. You can see here, you got a lip at the top, which makes it real easy. Also, it's real easy because to convert to static mesh because it's all addition brush. You can't convert subtraction brushes to BSP or to static because it doesn't work that way. It considers it an addition brush, and so when you try to convert it to static mesh, you'll just see a bunch of like it was treated as an addition brush, which you don't want. So this roof, for instance, could be converted to static, and how you do that is real simple. You select it, each little piece. Oh, son of a gun! There we go. Make sure that's all you have selected. So I have 3 pieces selected. I'm going to hit this button here to view it in all the viewports here. I'm going to lower the grid size so I can see if I can find a spot that it's aligned to the grid properly, and sure enough there is. I'm going to use the top left. I'm going to go to pivot, snapped here. Alright, and then I'm just going to convert to static mesh. I'm going to put it in the my level package, call it roofs as a group, and I'll just do roof. I know you probably want to do a descriptive thing, but in this case I'm just going to make it roof 001, and so we can go view it now. Now it's not optimized. It is definitely not optimized. Oh boy. But you can see it's already textured, and now we just need to add it to the level before you save, or else it will delete it. So I just right click here. It's gonna crash. Oh no, there we go. Okay, add static mesh. I need to enable actors, enable statics. Okay, I put it right to the grid. And gotta find out where it's at now. Put it way under the train. I'm gonna raise it up. I'm gonna turn view mode to this and put it right where it's at, or needs to be. And then I'm gonna go back into this mode and delete the BSP. And then I just got rid of the 3 BSP brushes. And now, why the mesh isn't optimized? Well, it was created in the editor basically, so it's not optimized. What you need to do, or what the proper thing to do, would be to take this into max and get rid of any faces that you need to. Now, in this case, how this thing is constructed, you can't. The only face you might be able to get rid of is this one, and I wouldn't do it because, nope, can't even get rid of that one. Yeah, so this is actually as optimized as you could make it, I think. Technically, no. So it could be optimized a bit. It's hard to explain, but you actually have 2 faces, or 2 polys here. Well, actually, it's more like 4, but you have one above and one below. And so in max, you could go and delete the one above, and you'd still see the one below, but the one above would be gone. So this is all hidden right here. But anyways, that would just cut off about, let's see, you couldn't do this one. You could do that one. So it cut down the number of triangles from 36 to 34. So it's so minor. I wouldn't even bother with this roof. But I'm sure there's other cases where, say this roof is pretty much the same. I would do it to that roof. There's some roofs that would be completely a pain. Another thing you could do is these little roof triangles. You could convert these to static. I know it would not match anymore, but there's ways to get it to look very close to matching to the BSP, and or like look exactly like you couldn't even tell that it was a static versus BSP. And actually what that would be for another video. And so these little lips on the roof here need to be converted to static, because it's just too much. This church would be a lot harder to fix. I tried to fix it actually when I worked on Noville. Oh my gosh. This is a huge no-no. This is terrible. Oh. No. I don't even know how I begin to fix that. It's just really too complicated. I would maybe first of all fix the stairs, then fix these columns, then start worrying about this. I don't even know what's happening here. Yeah, so this convert this thing to static, whatever it's doing here, I can't tell. And then start worrying about this thing. And if you could replace this thing, maybe to just do that. But yeah, that would cut down number of BSP cuts by a ton. By fixing that. Let's go somewhere else I saw. So these little boxes could be converted to static. There's no reason to have them BSP in my opinion. Don't do this. This this is not good to be making detail with BSP. The stairs, yeah, stairs need to be converted to static. I think the editor's gonna crash soon. Getting laggy. And yeah, more stairs here that could be converted to static. I hate these lips. Most annoying thing about these buildings, to me. There's more roofs you can convert. Stuff like this is unavoidable. Like, to fix that, you have to make this into a model, basically. And that requires you to make it into either in Max or just can make it in editor with only addition brush, convert it to static, and then fix it in Max. And I have a trick to make it easy in Max if you ever want to where, because I'm a terrible modeler. I don't like 3ds Max. The only reason why is the camera. I just don't work well with that camera system. If 3ds Max had an option to you have a camera like this editor has, I would probably be a modeler, a much better modeler, and a 3ds Max magician probably. I'd be very good at it. I just don't ever like working in it. Arches are a bad thing to have with BSP, and look at this arch window. Arches. Everything's an arch. These are even arches. Much better would be to not have them arches. Have them just boxes. And if you like the arch look, I would make maybe this part static mesh and find a way to blend it with the BSP, which can be hard, but it's possible. And these walls should be static. All this should be static. This whole building. Oh wait, no, you can go in this building. Never mind. I would worry about this. That's kind of complicated BSP work, overly complicated BSP work. And let's keep going. This building is surprisingly fine. Not too bad. I would leave that building alone. Maybe the roof. Maybe convert the roof to static. Like these little walls up here and all these roof parts could be static. And let's go on. Yeah, you can see this building is being cut up pretty nasty. So how the BSP cutting works is there's something called like global cuts, I think. And so like there'll be a cut line, like a line that gets cut through here, like, and it will just cut up your building, and that's not necessarily bad, but it's also it can affect your building. So in some cases, you'll see these global cuts go through your building, and you could like move the building over a little bit so that global cut comes through on a already established cut in that building. It's hard to predict those, and I think the global cuts can move, so that would be something to only do once you've already optimized the level all the way, and you just want to like just get it a little bit more optimized by moving like a building like 8 units over or something. And that would also include all the statics you need to move and everything. It's getting really laggy. Um, the uh, the reason why the editor crashes, and the reason why it will probably crash in game too for people with low memory, um, is the total resource count is quite high. I'll go in game in just a second and look at that. You can't look at it from the editor. It's not accurate and it's not helpful. Um, but I think that explains what you need to do to resolve the Hall of Mirrors issue, and to just make sure to not just take any old building from any given level and expect it to be awesome, because yeah, I'm now to the point where I don't want to take buildings from levels anymore. I want to make sure to craft the building, um, and so on and so forth. And make sure it's well done at the beginning, especially if I'm going to make a big level with lots of buildings. That is key. And um, yeah, let's go to game and look at the total resources. This video is going to be way too long. That's okay. My game takes forever to launch. There he goes. Oh gosh, where is your level? There it is. I hope you have some type of spawn point. Yay! I thought you did. You could see how the fog like changed in there right when I spawned. Yeah, that can be fixed. You need to make sure all your zones are um, equal, or something. I don't know. Something was weird there, and that should be looked at. So I'm gonna bring a stat all. See how I got good FPS? When I say good, I mean like it's pretty average or good for that. And the reason why that is because you have a pretty low fog value. Um, like actually a really low fog distance. Like I can even see it in the street here. Um, but let's just go on. I'm gonna look at the hardware section. Um, yeah, it's concerning. So under hardware, I can't point at it. It's probably easier to read on the dark. You see all these sections on my screen here. You probably may not be able to make out the numbers, but under hardware, the total kbyte total resources is 478,208, which is way too high. Like I would say 150,000 too high. Is that right? Yeah. So you want to be under 400,000 for sure. You want to be somewhere around 370,000 or less is really what I would say. Um, if 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 it is higher than 370,000, then people could crash with the create texture failed crash, or general protection fault crashes even. Um, Now, the whole like large address aware thing is what helps stop that from happening, but that only goes so far. If that total resources gets higher, which it will as more players join, and let's say there's a player that has joined both teams, selected different weapons, picked up different weapons, looked at different optics, got in different vehicles, so on and so forth. The total resource is going to go higher and higher and higher, and if it gets so high, even my computer will crash. I don't know what value it is. I would guess somewhere in the 800,000, but It's possible to reach that if your base is 478,000. So you can see it's concerning, very concerning. And to fix that, you want to optimize your texture usage. Um, that would be where I would start, is optimizing your textures. And from the looks of it, your level uses a lot of textures. Right now, I'm rendering 332 textures, different textures. I'm gonna do show fog, and it's just gonna like get rid of the fog, and so now I can render across the map. And you can see my num textures is like 480, which actually isn't too bad. Oh, there we go, 500. Yeah, that's getting pretty high for viewing the whole map. That's why your total resources is pretty high. And let's see here, what else? You got a lot of visibility. Of course, I can show fog again, and that will go down. Still, though, you got a lot of visibility calculations. You got a lot of static mesh. It's not too bad, though. And anyways, I think, yeah, the saving grace of the FPS on this level is the low fog value. There's things you can do to optimize this level a lot in regards to total resources and like statics and all that, to the point that you could probably even increase the fog distance if you wanted. But you have to be careful with all that. And so optimizing textures, where to start? I would start with making sure you don't have any duplicate textures in the My Level package. So what I do is I always start with the My Level packages, because those would be key to reducing the number of textures or potential duplicate textures and so on and so forth. So I'm going to just open your level here and look at the My Level package. And I'm imagining there's going to be a lot of stuff in it, but you never know. So let's take a look. And okay, now some of this stuff is duplicated on purpose, because it did use some assets from other packages, so I just moved those assets to the My Level package temporarily. But here, this is a debris texture that is in DH Buildings text, so that's a duplicate texture. That's a duplicate texture. It's now in DH Ground. This is a duplicate texture. It's in DH Vegetation, and in fact, the one in DH Vegetation has this line at the bottom of this grass fixed. So, like, I would definitely make use of that. Plus, it is a 2048 by 2048 insanely large texture, especially for how crappy the texture is. No offense to the creator. We got Dirt 2, one of the most duplicated textures in all of DH. That is in DH Ground. This, well, I would just get rid of this and use something that doesn't have wording on it. I think this is in DH Ground. This is in a bunch, actually, yeah, this is in a bunch of maps. Another highly duplicated texture. It's in DH Vegetation 3 text, I think, maybe. I don't know, I've never seen that, but I'm sure it exists somewhere. That looks familiar, though. That is definitely a duplicate. That's a duplicate. That's a duplicate. The one in DH Buildings is better anyways. This is a custom Opal Blitz. I may have put it in a package, though I'm not sure. There's other stuff. The cobblestone, that's in a package. DH Building. This roof, I don't think is. The shingle one is. I don't think is. But if there's ever a texture that that you want added to an official package, just let me know. But anyways, I would start here. Get all those things down using. The quickest way to convert it is right-click on it, rename it to the correct package, group, and name of the official one. And in these cases, I'd have to look up the package, the group, and the texture name for each one, which takes forever. I know it sucks, but I would do that starting. That would be step number one. Step number two would be to go into in use. And you've probably never used this before, but I find it extremely handy. And oh my god, look at how much I have to scroll down here. Wah! Yeah, it even bugs out. Alright, so what I would do is start in the in use, and how it works is it shows you a texture, and I think it's alphabetical. It doesn't section it off into packages. It's just like, what level, what textures am I using on statics and BSP, and it will tell you. So this texture is it's called 3 file cabinets, and it says static mesh material 3, which what that means is there's 3 statics in the entire level that's using that texture, and it's a 1024 by 1024 texture. So you could get rid of those 3 file cabinets in this level, and bam, they're no longer using this 1024 by 1024 texture. All right, going on skybox. Well, yeah, sure, only one static uses that, but that's your skybox, and that's half the level. Believe it or not. But because, you know, like, if you look up in the sky, that's all you see. So very important texture. Going on, we got the altar. You got a lot of churches. You got apparently 5 altars. I would probably keep that, even though it's a big texture. You use these stoves a lot. I would go on. Okay, so we got a duplicate texture here. We got ARD Stonewall 3, ARD Stonewall 3. So one of these is in my level, and one of these is in DH buildings. If you would have already fixed the my level duplicates, you wouldn't have seen this. And here's a texture that is used on BSP 46 times. I would say that's enough to justify keeping it, especially it's only a 512 by 512 texture. Here's one that's 1024 but 308. BSP surfaces use it. I would keep it. Here's a BA64 destroyed texture that BSP uses 10 times. A great way to get rid of that, well, first figure out what you want to replace it with, and then like select any BSP surface, change to it, and right click, go to select surfaces, and then go to matching texture, and then hit F5 and see if it did in fact select all 11. If it doesn't, what you need to do, you need to run a command in the console here called cull textures, and what am I typing in wrong? I am typing the command wrong. Why is my brain not working? Pretty sure it's cull textures. Texture cull. There we go. And so we just culled 5 textures here, 6 textures. Now, when you rebuild, it might give some errors, but there's a way to fix that. Don't freak out. And anyways, since it does have all 11 selected, 11, then you could just click anything, like just click another texture. So let's say I wanted to change it to the charred wood, because it kind of has like a burn thing. Another thing would be to figure out like where exactly in the level this is being used, and like what it's being used for, and then decide what to do with it. But it's a weird thing to be using this texture on BSP. That's why I'm saying that you should probably replace it. And then going on, got some different bark textures, not a big deal. We got blue barrels, we got green barrels, we got red barrels, we got black barrels. You could probably get rid of the blue barrels for the green or the black, and maybe get rid of the red for the green, or just get rid of the blue, because you only have 2 blue barrels, and the rest you have like 16 plus. You also have a different barrel texture, which is okay, I guess. Going on, One thing I do when I do my passes like this is I only focus on the big textures first, like anything 1024 or higher. So I would just look at these bricks. So we got a lot of weird brick textures here. We could replace this one that only used 19 times, and tell it to use this one that is already used 816 times and also using it on a static. Let's go on. Uh, so anyways, you can just start going through here and reducing down the texture usage. And this is a great way to find duplicates. It's a great way to find like a texture that, here's a perfect example. There's a texture right here, 1024, 1024. It's only used one time in the entire level, and it's on a BSP plane. So I would definitely get rid of that and replace it with, say, this one or this one or this one. And this one is used by static mesh 5 times. You could probably even have those static mesh use a different one. This one's used 15 times by static meshes, or 15 static meshes use that texture, so it could easily be replaced or skinned to only use this one. Going on, we got two different. That's a color modifier. Don't be tricked. Make sure if you see two duplicates, make sure that they're both say texture, and that's in fact a duplicate. These are not duplicates. This one is a color modifier, so it's referencing this or whatever, and so it's not a duplicate. It's just a modifier to that texture. Bunch of box or crate textures. We got hanging set used 22 times. Might be worthwhile keeping. Metal object. Okay, so we got some more plaster walls here. We could probably get rid of like 2 or 3 of them. Go on. More plaster. See, this is only used 3 times. Dry ceiling, it's used 3 times on BSP. Convert that to this one. Like, yeah. And go on. It's pretty much the same texture, by the way, too. It's just this one darker. And going on. This red door is only used by 2 static meshes. You could probably find a replacement for those, or find something else. Find another static. I've already looked at this texture, so like I said, you had a duplicate. This is the duplicate. I think the one above was the one that you should be using. So, yeah, it's using both actually. So not only is it a texture duplicate in the My Level package, it's also referencing both the one it should be and the one in the My Level. So it's not only a duplicate in file space, it's also a duplicate in like memory. And it's a huge texture. I would definitely fix that. Going on, la da da. I don't even know what this is for. 4 static meshes use it, and it's a 2048 by 2048 thing. Generator final. Apparently some generator thing uses it. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that texture. But I would consider getting rid of those generators. Going on. I mean, so you would just go through and go through and go through this. It would take several days, or several hours, many hours. But this is what I do to optimize levels to reduce the total resource limit. Textures are the biggest help to reducing down. If you get to a point where you've done all the texture optimization you can without degrading the level down to like looking terrible, then you're still too high, it means that you just got too much detail. And because, believe it or not, each vertex, each vertice actually increases the total resource memory. So I would go and maybe start reducing down the number of trees. Maybe like have every other tree here instead of every as many trees as you have. And then like believe it or not, like if you have a lot of high detail trees, you could replace them with low detail trees, especially in the outskirts. And when I say high detail, none of these trees are really high detail, so I wouldn't even worry about that. But if you have to, go for it. It's really hard to say, like, what to do there, but for instance, I've resorted to, instead of using this nice grass, this higher detailed mesh, I resorted to using like a crappy field, and it's even if I open Po2, I could show you, just because total resources are getting really high on Po2, and I'm trying to have the scale of the level, but also like not have it crash on people. So anyways, that would be how to stop the editor from crashing too, because if the editor is crashing, it means that it's likely to crash players. Not likely, it's going to eventually. The editor is a little more sensitive to the total resource or the total resource used by the level, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the editor is set up as a old application, aka non-large address aware. So like, it can only use 2 gigabytes of memory. So if you load up the level and it wants more or whatever, and then it may crash. And so each time you build too, increases that resource count, especially if you have a lot of projectors. Projectors get reapplied. I have no clue how to fix that. I've looked into preventing that, but if you have a lot of projectors in your level and you keep rebuilding, it's going to eventually crash no matter what. I have to deal with that a lot because I use a lot of projectors now, because they are very inexpensive from the looks of it. From what I've seen, I can use thousands of projectors, and it doesn't really harm the FPS of a modern computer at all. And like the render time, even on maps that I use a lot of them on, are still under like 1 ms. So I don't mind using a lot of projectors. It's just they're a pain to deal with and a pain to add, and they don't necessarily add to any value to the level except visuals. So, anyways, I hope this helped you to resolve this level. I think it's a good level potentially to have some cool events on it. I would smooth out this terrain here. Please do that. Smooth this terrain out. Best way to do that, actually, or maybe just like add some rocks or something, but it just looks really square. Anyways, I would say if you spent a week, 4 hours a day, you'd have it to the point where you're no longer having Hall of Mirrors. But yeah, fixing the stairs, fixing the BSP, fixing the total resources, using the ideas I told you to make it so you don't crash as often while you try to do all this, will be very handy and will move you toward, completion faster. Because that's what I would do. Like, seriously, if I had to work on this level, like, I almost did it on Po2. In fact, I did a little bit to try to figure out which buildings were causing the Hall of Mirrors, but I discovered that it wasn't any particular building. It was just overcomplicated BSP. Too much BSP and too many BSP cutting happening. So I just went around and started optimizing where I could. And I was a little lazy. I haven't done a full thing on it. I could do more, but I got rid of it. I did a one pass on it for what I thought needed done, and sure enough, it worked. I have not seen Hall of Mirrors on it for a while. Now, if it reoccurs, then there's still room. I still have ideas on how to reduce the BSP cuts, and that would actually be going in and doing these things right here, because there's a lot of these things on those buildings in Po2. So I would convert these to static, and that would get rid of several cuts. And that would be where I would start if it reoccurs. But for now, I've got rid of the Hall of Mirrors issue on that map, and I'm pretty excited about it. So, anyways, hopefully this video helps you figure out how to optimize this level and how to get it to where you are able to play it without Hall of Mirrors. And I know how annoying that Hall of Mirrors thing is. It's pretty much so immersion breaking that I would say it can ruin a level. And I think that's really why Po 2 wasn't as big as it could have been. Like, I seriously think it is an amazing map, and it's gonna be awesome once people are playing it again without the hull mirrors. Anyways, good luck.